in today's market, what you have to do is get better at generating leads.
We should be able to market these coming soons that are not in the MLS yet.
A few different breakout agents that have launched great brokerages. And
we should be able to market our listings, which that is best for our client. So that's kind of where I stand.
Welcome back to your favorite podcast on the planet, Realty Talk podcast. We're excited about this week's episode. Lots of news, lots of stuff to get through. Before we do, though, to my left, the queen of the closing table, Suzanne, the founder of Innovate Realty. What is new in the world of single-family real estate?
Hold on. We need to also introduce you, Paul Fix-It-All Hansen.
Yes.
It's like, we can't forget. That's important. Everyone needs to know.
Yeah.
You need to know your nickname as well.
So
a lot of thought went into this. So now I'm going to make sure I bring it up every single time.
Yeah, I think what I should probably do is come up with something that I fixed within the last week.
Oh, yeah. And I can be like, what did you fix this week? I feel like that's a good opening.
Yeah. Last week, I did not fix my golf game.
Okay.
I'll have to think about that one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I feel we fixed problems today.
My goodness.
We solved problems all day. So
yeah.
Paul solve it all. Hansen, I don't know.
I love it.
Yeah, no, I would say a lot's happening in the real estate space. I think, we're settling into the fact that it's a little bit of a different market than what we anticipated this year.
Yeah.
There's another war that started since our last podcast.
Yeah. Maybe a ceasefire and maybe a war ending. We don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I mean, time will tell. But typically we see that affecting rates a little bit. And the Fed just met. And nothing's changing there. So that's pretty interesting because you would think that with that volatility, maybe we would get a little break. But
essentially, Powell yesterday said, "I'm not going to give any indication. Still worried about inflation numbers and the tariffs. I don't think they have enough data on how companies are going to." Kind of shed that back to the consumer yet.
Right.
So we're unclear if prices have gone way up or, that's not me saying these things, that's what Powell's saying.
Just unclear overall.
Yeah.
Potentially in September, we're expecting that there could be a small
I think that's
rate cut.
That's us thinking that. Yeah. I don't think he even gave any real clear indication that would be the case. Right. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, we've talked about it too. I think, rates today are, I think 6.8 for a 30-year fixed mortgage. I don't know, 75 basis points too high or something.
Yeah.
I mean, if they settled in the low sixes or high fives, it would be incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really affordable. I think like a 5.5 to 6% mortgage.
It's healthy.
Yeah, I think so. If you're borrowing, that's one thing that I don't think somebody really considers when they purchase a house. It's like, okay, you're going to buy a $500,000 or $1 million house and you're putting 10 or 20% down. You're borrowing somebody else's money for 30 years.
Yeah.
So what should they get in the form of a return for borrowing that?
Yeah.
And 5.5%, 6%, I mean.
Feels fair. Yeah.
Feels fair to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
we just got super spoiled because everyone saw rates at 2.5%.
Yeah.
I think I'm locked in at 1.99. Like, I don't think that
you can't, you cannot sell ever.
Yeah. So, I understand where the thought comes from, but I think, as we've said before, it just comes down to affordability and necessity and really what your goals are and what you want. But with that, I think things are not moving as fast as we would like. And I think, the data is kind of coming out and showing that this summer is, I remember last summer being pretty slow too, to be honest. But I think this summer might top it.
Yeah. Well, there's this there was an interesting article. I'd have to go back and look at it, but I don't remember when I read it. But it was talking about the markets that have had a ton of supply come back, and then it was out. It was kind of forecasting what foreclosures were going to look like. And so, the major cities are a city in Florida, Austin. they were estimating that upwards of 10 or 15% of consumers that bought in 21 and 22 are actually underwater. So in Austin, the housing market has come down by 20%. Wow. So if you bought in 21 or 22, you had a conforming loan, so you put 5 or 10% down, and the value has come down 20% since then. You're bringing a check forward to close.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of interesting. I think Redfin published some data this week that they think, national foreclosures will still be sub 1%. I'd have to go back and fact check that. Mm-hmm. But, so still pretty low. And people aren't forecasting that foreclosures are going to increase. So I think it's just, consumers are adjusting to the market. Yeah, essentially.
Exactly.
So as a broker or an agent, I guess the question is, how do you or how do we or how do our listeners respond to that to go and win more listings or, actually close that listing that's kind of aged or represent your buyer to get into a house? Like, what do you do differently in today's market from what you may have done in 22?
I think you just have to work.
Yeah.
I think you have to work a little harder. I think the business is out there, and I think that you change your strategies to adapt to what the market is. When there were 30 offers on a property, it's like you've got to really give your all to make sure that you're giving the seller everything they want and then some to get your offer accepted. So we talk about it all the time. There are so many different pockets. You can't look at the market as a whole and take that to your client, right. You have to look at that pocket. So for example, I think one of the biggest things that you can do as an agent is set the right expectations with your seller. Mm-hmm. Look at the pocket that you're selling in versus the market as a whole, because you might come in and your seller is still, thinking that values or that their home should be selling for what a home sold for in 2021.
Yep.
And it's just not the case. So I think we've talked about it before, but setting the right expectations all the way around. But you as an agent or as a team, you just need to understand the market and then develop strategies around that, and have creative products like we've talked about 100 times where it's like, okay, if you know that your market is or your property is sitting and it's aged and it might not have everything that it needs for a buyer to go in that wants something turnkey. Again, we're talking about people that they might be giving up a good interest rate on their house.
Yep.
You better make your house amazing for them to want to buy it, So we have the ability, as we've talked about before, to get in there and help the seller renovate their home so that it's the product that the buyer wants. So it's really just about analyzing the situation and adapting to that market. And as we've said, I mean, in some areas, homes are flying.
Yeah.
So you need to be an expert in your craft as the agent. I think that we've seen a lot of other agents that maybe weren't as experienced exit the market because they needed to get another job or do something else. And so the agents that are in the market, it's just really, really important to be an expert in your field.
Yeah, I feel like kind of two things with what you said and the question I asked. I think if you're an agent, regardless of where you're at in your career, in today's market, what you have to do is get better at generating leads. That's it. Mm-hmm. So there's still going to be a few million houses that sell this year, and you're competing against, hundreds of thousands of agents in your market, depending on where you're at. And all you have to do is get in front of that buyer or seller before your counterpart does. Mm-hmm. And then when you do, to your point, you got to show them how you're going to go and create value.
Right.
But I can think back at an example of an agent that's at Innovate. 3 years ago, very onesie-twosie transaction volume. And he was very curious, in terms of how he could grow his business. He spent a lot of time with Buy House to understand the fix and flip side of the business. And where we sit today, he's doing a very good job getting in front of sellers, buyers, and investors.
Yeah.
And he's putting himself in a position where he gets to participate on investments. And then he's using what you mentioned, which is understanding your micro market and pricing it in a way where things are moving very quickly.
Right.
So I can bring up a deal that, we're in the middle of at the moment. We bought it January 22nd, pretty speedy renovation, brought it to market last Friday, and we spent, I don't know how many hours talking about our pricing strategy.
Yeah.
We ended up, taking it to market Friday. Monday morning had 3 offers, I think, papered.
Yeah.
And 2 all cash over ask. And, do I think that there's upside to that? For sure. But we priced it in a way where there were a lot of eyeballs. It's fully renovated. Most of the other inventory or most of the other houses in that little sub-market of LA are a little bit tired.
Yeah.
And they're trying to get that same top dollar.
Right.
So we were probably $40,000 to $50,000 below what the average listing was at that same square footage, but we were fully renovated.
Right.
And I think a traditional investor might have tried to go to market $150K higher.
Yeah.
But we're going to net out to probably getting to that same place.
There,
we'll know in the next 24 hours or so.
Yeah.
But I would just, calling him out, I'm not going to say his name, but he's done a really great job at generating more leads, putting more shots on goal, and then just setting very clear expectations.
Yeah.
And for us as an investor, it's really the most important thing is to continue moving.
Yeah.
So even if we're not achieving that target that we had underwritten,
Yeah.
bring the dollars back, go into another deal, and you got to keep buying.
Yeah.
To get through the ebb and flow.
And I think that to that example, we're talking about someone that initially, as you mentioned, it's about getting in front of clients. It's about generating leads. I think, initially he was kind of relying on others to just provide leads, which is great. I mean, I think agents should always invest in lead generation. I think we will always invest in lead generation. But I think, what something that we talk about all the time is we want to generate our own leads.
Yeah.
And then you have more control of that situation. So that's what he started doing. He started generating his own leads by hitting the field and making things happen. And so, I mean, I think it goes back to the initial statement of like, you got to work.
Yeah.
You got to get out there. So
basically, we're saying be productive, not reactive, and create value.
Right.
Which you could transfer into any industry.
Yeah.
You don't have to be a real estate agent listening to this podcast. I mean, if you're in a position in your career where you want more and you aspire for more, but you feel like you're capped in any way, shape, or form, be proactive, not reactive, and create value. If you do those 2 things, you're going to win.
Right.
It may take a long time, but you're going to win.
So we're going into a segment.
Okay.
Homes Gone Wild. Sounds like we've got a new story submission today that we are going to have you read our listeners. I'm excited.
So I'll give a quick preface. In this segment, I don't know why I always get designated to read it, but if you're new to our podcast, we have listeners that submit stories. These listeners are either agents, brokers, or consumers, and I read it live time. So I have not seen what this is yet.
Yeah, I will say our team makes an extra point to make sure that we don't read it ahead of time. So that way we can get true reactions.
Lifetime reactions. Okay. So on this week's segment of Homes Gone Wild, one time when I was showing a house, the listing agent said to head right in. I ring the bell and knock on the door and no one answers. So I proceed to use my lockbox and walk in with my buyer. So interesting, he says lockbox, or he or she says lockbox, not on a Supra.
Yeah.
I'm just picking that up. We go through the entire first floor and then proceed to the basement. This is not a California deal.
Yeah.
As we are going to the second floor to see the bedrooms, a completely naked man walks by the hallway. I tell him that we are showing the house. He starts making his way down the stairs to tell us nobody told him we were coming to see the house today. But take your time. Note that he was still naked the entire conversation.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
What do you do in that situation? You're just like, okay, well, this is the house and this is the owner. And
This reminds me of a story that I should share briefly, very quickly. So for listeners that don't know, when I was 18 years old, I went out and sold alarm systems door to door. And if you've ever gone door to door, like the craziness that comes with that.
Yeah.
So this is like halfway through my first summer and I was doing very well. So I was confident. And I knock on this door in Cleveland, and it was in a rough neighborhood. And as I knock on the door kind of opens, like it wasn't shut entirely.
Yeah.
And the woman inside says, "Come in." So I'm like, great. When you're selling door to door, the hardest thing is getting inside the house to give your pitch or to create value.
Yeah.
As I'm walking in, somebody's pulling in the driveway. She comes around the corner in a robe. And this was like her boyfriend or husband or somebody coming in behind me.
Oh no.
So as he walks in the front door, I'm like standing in the entryway and she's in the hallway in a robe. And it was this really awkward exchange, like, and the only thing I could think of to say was, "It's not what it looks like." I'm like, holy shit, I should not have said that.
It's like a movie.
Yeah, it's like a movie. Yeah. I did not make the sale.
Not what it looks
I was red in the face. I left, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going back to that street.
Oh, wow. You're like, do you need solar for...
I was selling alarm systems back then.
Alarms, yeah.
Yeah, but
man.
I mean, in this scenario, I would love to know more. Like, tell me more of this story. Did you sell?
Yeah.
Did your buyer buy the house, or what happened?
And you say like he was like note he was naked the whole conversation. So like, or was still naked. Like, how did that conversation
what was the interaction like?
Go? Yeah, like,
was he standing confidently, or was he shy? Like, what happened? Props to him.
Oh,
great work for the seller.
All right. Well, I feel like you're going to have to start submitting stories because yours are pretty. I feel like every time we read a story, you're like, I've had that happen before.
I went door to door for 5 years of my life to generate, income, and that created my opportunity to be an entrepreneur. But I mean, I would knock on 250 doors a day, 6 days a week. The number of crazy experiences it's wild. It's too much.
Yeah. When you get out in the field like that, like it's inevitable.
It's too much.
You're going to see it.
Too much.
Oh, okay.
So transitioning away from naked dudes trying to sell their house, we've got some interesting, things happening in the brokerage world, right? So, and I don't want to misspeak, but Zillow is being sued by Compass.
Yeah.
So Compass is drawing their sword.
Yeah.
At Big Blue. I call Zillow Big Blue.
Yeah, and I think they're looping in a few other brokerages as well, just because they are, following these policies.
Do you think it was because of the naked showing?
I feel like it could be related to that.
Okay.
But it goes back to, we talked about it on a previous podcast that they're kind of going head to head about the listing situation and the timeline, and Compass is now wanting to, have all these off-market listings. And Zillow's stance, honestly, is I don't want to say they're afraid of the MLSs, but they're kind of afraid of the MLSs. Yeah. They're in a situation where they are at their mercy. Their feeds come from the MLS. And if Zillow doesn't get those feeds from the MLS, their data is not accurate. If you look back 10 years ago on Zillow, it was constant. Like, you're looking at it and it's a property that had already sold. So they're really, really dependent on working well with the MLSs.
Can we pause there and just unravel what that means? Because I think sometimes we go a little too fast. Like, if you're not in the real estate world, you may not know what that means. So the MLS is the multiple listing service.
Yeah.
Really what that is a compository for data points. Mm-hmm. And then Zillow and Redfin, and if you're a local agent in a market and you show active properties or things, all they're really doing is syndicating that data
from the MLS.
So anything you see on Zillow, anything you see on Redfin is coming from the MLS's internal resource. Mm-hmm. And so that's where the friction lies, right?
Right.
So what exactly is Compass saying? Why is Compass suing Zillow? They're saying, we want to keep stuff away from other competing brokerages because inventory's tight, or what is it that they're arguing?
It's mainly because they chose a side. Like, Zillow chose the side, and Zillow states, like, we want transparency for all in the market. And Compass is saying we should be able to market these coming soons that are not in the MLS yet. And so Zillow is taking the stance of, like, again, they need the MLS.
Right.
So they're not trying to upset the MLS in any way by abiding with these other ideas and brokerages that are trying to, get away from the MLS. So, and have these listings exclusive, which we talked about before. There's a clear benefit to their brokerage, but maybe not necessarily to the consumer. It really depends.
Yeah, and the advantage really, I just want to unravel all this so make sure that we hit the points, but the advantage for a brokerage that has a listing that's about to come live, the advantage of not going to the MLS is that another agent inside of your brokerage could consummate a transaction before it goes to market.
Right.
Which means brokerage earns
Doubles
more,
their money,
agent earns more.
Yeah.
And to your point, and this isn't your belief, I think it's just your point, is that doesn't necessarily benefit the consumer that's selling or buying because we don't really know what market is.
Right. And so, it can potentially benefit the consumer to have their property marketed coming soon.
Sure.
Before it's ready, like we talked about. If it's still in renovations and you want to move it super quickly and that this is the date it's going to be done, but it's not necessarily ready to show, that's okay. I think marketing a property coming soon is okay. I think where it gets a little murky.
But publicly.
Yes, that's where it gets a little murky.
Got it.
If all of the listings are able to, transparently be out there for all agents to have access to, then I think that's a different conversation. But it feels like Compass is really just trying to focus on, bringing that to their own agents.
Yeah.
And
they're trying to create value for their agents.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So if you had to fall on a side or in the middle, where are you falling on this?
I think that the MLS rules are a little dated,
Sure.
and I think that they are very strict. I understand why they are strict, but I honestly think that as long as we can get, we should be able to market our listings, that is best for our client. So that's kind of where I stand. I think if we're doing what's best for our client and not best for our pocket, then there's nothing wrong with that. But, if your motives are not as pure and no one is regulating that, it can be a little tricky.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you have when you sign a listing agreement or you represent a buyer, you have a fiduciary duty to that client, right? So as long as you do that, then there should be more flexibility.
Right.
I guess the argument for Compass, I'm just trying to think about it from every angle. The argument from Compass's standpoint is they might be able to create more value for their seller or buyer by getting it done off market with an agent inside of the brokerage.
Right.
And it would be impossible to really know.
Right.
But the MLS or Zillow, I guess I don't really understand, what their defense is. Like
basically that violates their rules by marketing that property and not putting it into the MLS for all agents to see. So that is a violation. And so Zillow is just kind of following suit with that. They're saying like, we're not putting any properties on our site that are not input into the MLS with those MLS rules. So, it's a little strange. It kind of just feels like, I guess the way I look at it is everyone has always kind of gone after Zillow, and especially brokerages have always felt like, Zillow steals our listings, and then they send the leads to other agents. Yeah. And, there's always been this like, I hate Zillow crew.
Sure.
And so I think that they're kind of getting looped into this. And I think like we talked about it last time, it's good press, it's good media. We're talking about it. Other people are talking about it. It's making waves, but I think Zillow is doing what they can to maintain relationships where they need to.
Yeah, to me, this is kind of I mean, if you go back 20 years, single family real estate was pretty vanilla. If you look at asset classes, like macroeconomics, there was no volatility or very little volatility, I guess I should say, right? I mean, it was, every 7 to 10 years, there's small ebb and flows, but it's kind of just creeping up by a couple points a year.
Right.
And then what we've seen in the last 20 years is a ton of volatility in, 2008, 2009, and then COVID years. And so, but I guess the question I'm posing is if those two events didn't happen, or if we were in kind of a regular market, would these two parties be fighting about this? Probably not.
Yeah.
Because transaction volume would be normalized.
Yeah.
And so to me, this is like two little kids at the playground arguing over, the slide because there's not another slide.
Right.
It's like transaction volume's down and they're trying to protect their shareholder value. And so they're fighting each other.
Exactly.
It's like, just go create more value.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like, let's focus on the right actions.
So, well, I guess the other question we should ask is how do we go monetize or, how do we go take advantage of this argument? Like generally when two people start fighting, they lose the ball or they take their eye off of the ball and their core business. Like how do we go and create value and innovate during that weird tumultuous time?
Yeah. I mean, I think we've already seen some of that with the bigger brokerages where, a great example is like a market shift and then a brokerage coming and telling the agent, hey, I know that you've been paid this for your entire time and this is what your contract says, but now we're going to take you to paying you this because the market has shifted or because we are part of a lawsuit, which happened with the NAR ruling and everything else. So really where that had nothing to do with the actual agent. And so I think, we're out there trying to do whatever we can to focus on the problems in the real estate market. And we know that if we solve for those problems, that agents are going to be coming in our direction. Yeah. And I think it's more just, what we always talk about. It's like when we do actually talk to agents that learn what we're doing, they're like mind blown.
They're excited, yeah.
They're excited. They're mind blown because we don't get involved with the other chatter and all the BS and we focus on how we can create value for agents versus, the drama that comes with being on top there. So
yeah. I mean, if you look at the last 10 years, there's like a few different breakout agents that have launched great brokerages and have had a great run.
Yeah.
And they either did that by having a TV show, or they, or they were like kind of micro and they didn't expand.
Yeah.
Like what Ryan Serhant has done is to me incredible. Like whether you like the guy or not.
Yeah.
I mean, he leveraged, network and created a behemoth. I mean, he's exploding. But I don't really see him getting tied up into any of this stuff ever. Like he's just focused on, business. I'm going to sell deals, I'm going to recruit agents, and I'm going to launch new markets. And, it's pretty inspiring to see somebody go through the transition that he's seen.
Yeah.
So we just have to go do that, I guess.
I mean, I think that's what we did.
New York.
Exactly. Yeah.
New York's next on the market.
We already have new markets on the horizon. So I think it...
Whoa, interesting.
Yeah, right around the corner.
But we can't say where.
No, maybe.
Okay,
well, maybe.
You'll have to check back next episode. Next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Or the following, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have, yes, it's a teaser.
Exciting news.
Okay. Well, with that, I feel it is time for another segment.
Let's do it.
Because we got real serious.
Yeah.
So I like having a little bit of fun.
Okay,
We've changed the rules a little bit.
Okay.
So now we are guessing the price.
Okay.
Is it right?
The price is right, Bob.
That is the new game.
So wait, who wins? Is it like Price is Right rules
like
where it's
me versus you?
You can't go over or... Well, let's work this out.
We need to iron this out for sure.
So it's either you or I that's winning.
Yes.
It's the person that's close. Let's go to the person that's closest.
Yeah.
Regardless if it's over or under.
I'm like, I think it's me versus you, Paul. I don't think there's
anyone. Let's do it.
Now,
Okay.
We got
We're going to have a tally.
Yeah. Okay.
So we will be guessing the price of the home that the home sold at. We'll be getting location, number of bedrooms and bath, and square footage. Okay. So this is really a test of our national pricing index.
I've been very off. So just admittedly, the real estate agent. But, I obsess in California mainly.
Okay, let's do this thing.
California, Arizona. but okay, we got a Palmdale.
Okay, Palmdale, California.
All right, thank you.
Zip code 93551. That I don't know what that zip code is. 5 beds, 7 baths, big house, 6,003 square feet.
Okay.
Why 3 square feet at the end? Who built this house?
That feels like an interesting
it's odd.
ad.
It's going to be a funky shaped house.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
So we get to, I knew it. I knew it was going to be a funky shaped house.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're not watching, you're just listening. Palmdale, this is like up on a hillside. You're overlooking beautiful Palmdale. There's like a little pond or lake below. This is a big house.
It kind of looks like a hotel. Like that's like hotel style.
This looks like a ski chalet in Park City.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like multi-level terraced and something. So there's like wood. It's almost like a wooden facade with stone. But then you've got all this glass, and I don't know what this material is, but there's like these steps where all these windows are.
This is really interesting.
Okay.
Unique. Okay, yeah. That to me, like that screams hotel.
Yeah. Big long driveway. This is an estate. Oh, okay. So this makes sense. So the big, like if you're watching, the terraced windows are just an atrium over an indoor swimming pool, which kind of makes sense in Palmdale because it's hot.
Yeah. Indoor pool. All right.
This house was probably awesome in the 90s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So finish is kind of, it's just tired.
Yeah, a little dated, but.
It's clean.
Yeah. We haven't seen anything crazy yet. I don't know. You never know what to expect here, so.
This was probably I am guessing this was built in the 70s. It's got that volcanic stone fireplace. It's boxy, but then there's curves, so it's almost like a quasi mid-century piece, but then it's got this rustic feel.
Yeah, you can make that house really cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the epic views.
Yeah. All right, old tired kitchen.
Yeah, very tired kitchen.
Tile everywhere.
It's kind of cool, little breakfast nook. Okay. Oh, spiral staircase.
Upstairs.
It's an architectural home. I mean, these are like these components. This staircase, it's circular, but then it's got glass on the outside. It's beautiful.
Okay.
I mean, this is a compound.
It looks really nice from the back. It does look like a ski chalet from that angle.
Okay, big deck.
Yeah.
All right. Listed
right.
on and off for the last 5 years.
I thought we were getting the price, and then we were
price.
guessing where it closed.
No,
So
we're guessing the total price.
Guessing
price.
where it closed?
Yeah.
Or what it was listed at?
Where it closed.
Guessing where it closed. Okay.
Okay.
On and off in the past 5 years.
I can go first. Do you want me to go first?
I do want you to go first, actually.
This closed for $2.95 million.
Okay, 2.9. You sound so confident with that. That is.
Yep.
Ugh.
They were probably initially listed at like 485.
I would agree. I think they probably listed over 4, and I would say 2.5.
Okay. So you're 2.5, I'm 2.95.
Yeah.
$450,000 delta. Let's see. Yeah,
All right,
we're ready.
drum roll.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, well,
You
we
win.
were both very. I don't know if we can call that a win because 2.5 is very far off from 1.35.
3.5? I just want to get an understanding.
Wow. I'm mind blown.
So 6,003 square feet. I'm just running our price per square foot. Just real quick to understand. I haven't. That is $224 a square foot.
Wow.
I don't think you could even come close to building that today.
Yeah.
In that location for that price point. Replacement cost would probably be $400 a foot.
2.5 acres.
That seems like a steal. Why didn't we buy that?
Yeah. I mean, what are we going to do with that?
I mean, it could use some love, but I don't know. I mean, I guess that's the other question is Palmdale. I don't know that market that well.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, now we know.
Okay, so for our listeners, Suzanne is 1, Paul is 0.
Okay, keep the tally, team. Keep the tally.
Bring more California deals.
Yes.
What else?
Well,
Anything else?
I think we covered market crazy. I think the things in LA have kind of toned down a little bit, and that's evened out. So, does it feel business as usual back with the construction? And
I don't know yet. I mean, so for the listeners that didn't listen to that episode in LA, there were, protests.
Our listeners definitely listen to every episode.
Yes, I agree. Well, our new listeners, we're gaining new listeners every week. There are protests and there was a subsect of our workers, team members that didn't want to go to work because of, what was happening.
Yeah.
And they're back to work. That's all good.
New headline.
Yeah, the market seems crazy though. I mean, kind of the same thing I've said for maybe 6 months. There's these micro pockets. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've had 3 or 4 listings in LA in the last 4 weeks that have had multiple offers, and we've had some stuff that's hanging out for 45 or 60 days to sell.
Yeah.
And Orange County still seems to be, really quick. But we're halfway through the year. I'm feeling really confident in, all of the different businesses that we're in. I mean, buy houses on pace to have our best year, in terms of the number of homes sold and revenue and, gross margin. And I think it's in kind of like a down market.
Yeah.
So that's positive. I feel the same at Innovate. I mean, I think agent count is growing. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a really strong uptick in agents that are raising their hand for mentorship, that are transacting more frequently.
Right.
That just goes back to what you are doing, the actions you're taking, which is, train them to create value and not be reactive.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen the rest of the year.
Yeah. Well, stay tuned. We'll give the update. Yeah.
Yes. And we should say, we have a new office opening soon.
We do, yes. I'm very excited. We are in the fun part, the furniture design of the office in La Jolla. So it's an amazing location on La Jolla and Pearl Street.
Beautiful.
So it's not too far from the water. Walkability for shops and restaurants and everything. So, a lot of time devoted, but it's all coming together.
Calling all San Diego agents.
Yes.
Now's the time to come to Innovate.
Yeah.
And then any agent that really doesn't like Des Moines, Iowa or Dallas, Texas, San Diego's a great market. We have a new office for you in La Jolla.
Yeah.
The cost of living in La Jolla is a little expensive.
Could be a little more than Des Moines, but
But 20 minutes away, I mean, you can be affordable. So 20-minute commute into La Jolla is great.
Yeah.
We're calling all agents, come to our new La Jolla office.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's a wrap.
We'll see you guys next time.
Yes. Please, if you have not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Follow us on all of the socials. I say all those things. I don't really know what that means. I'm the worst at socials. But we will see you next week.
We're not the ones doing it. So.
Yes. Thank you.
See you.